This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. So happy to be together again. I hope everyone had an amazing holiday. Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. And as we learned that during Pesach, everyone got an amazing, very amazing gift from Hashem called the Rusa de Le'ela, an arousal from above. Just like the Jewish people when they were running away from Mitzrayim, Hashem gave them that unbelievable power to recognize Him, to follow Him. He inspired us to chase after Him. He revealed to us like our internal powers that motivated us to do the right thing. And it was like a freebie, as it were, like out of nowhere. God decided to do that. And every year, God does this again and again. And every year, this arousal from above is greater exponentially. Because every year, each person's mitzvahs, for generations and generations, it's like hunchbacking on other accomplishments of our lives, our previous history of the Jewish people. So every year this revelation becomes more powerful, just like we learn during Rosh Hashanah. Every year, and the blowing of the shofar, new godly revelation is coming into the world, new greater moichin, the ability to have a greater mental wherewithal. So the same thing happened during Pesach. The way the Jewish people experienced the revelation of Kriyat Yam Suf, meaning what was buried was revealed, right? Because all of a sudden you saw the fish, all of a sudden the dry land. So that represented God's revelation that He gave to the Jewish people. So too we got it then. Now the Alter Rebbe in Likutei Torah actually says what we do with that revelation from Pesach till Shavuot will depend what long-lasting change from that revelation will take place. Meaning, someone gives you a gift, but you have to open it. And depending on how many layers you're going to open will depend how you will then get that gift inside. So we have 49 days, and we got to take this Arusa de Le'ela from above, from Hashem, use it by probing, doing the Sfirat HaOmer, by refining, by praying, by meditating, by learning. And these days, every day's effort that we do will ultimately give us a greater wherewithal to have a greater shift from that ultimate first revelation that we got during Pesach. And that is called the Rusa de la Tata. The work that we have to do Tata down here, because Kam Shavuos, another Arusa de la Eila, Arusa means arousal, Eila from above. We're going to receive another arousal from above from Hashem at the end of the Shavuot. But again, depending on what you did. Like we've learned before, those who toil before Shabbos have what to eat on Shabbos. Those who toil during the week, when Shabbos comes, and they really worked on their davening, they learned and they did the service, then come Shabbos, the revelation of all that we worked, we will be able to quote-unquote eat. So to this time period. The Alter Rebbe actually teaches us that that's why when we finish the holiday of Shavuot, we don't do the summing. Why? Because after Shabbat, that extra soul that we get leaves. It planted whatever it planted in us, and it's gone. But with Shavuot, whatever we receive stays with us. And we don't then have to do the besamim to revive us that our extra soul is leaving, because it's not going to be leaving. It's going to be staying. But again, depending on what effort you made will result in how much of it is going to be staying. So with that, it was during Leil Shri of Pesach, and right before I just took a book to study, because what I had decided to study, I had actually studied days before, because on one of the days of the holiday, I ended up staying home because one of my family members was not well. So I did a lot of davening and a lot of learning on my own, and so I learned more than I thought I would. And then come Leil Shvi, I already learned it, and I wanted something like new, refreshing, and so I just took a book from the Chabad house where I was at, and I just randomly opened it up, and it ended up to a place where I've studied it before, and it was a good review for me, and I really would like to share it with you, and then hopefully get into how it relates to Bezrat Hashem Sfirat Omer, and really then getting this ultimate transformation like in a bigger way because of our work down here. So there's a story of a man who was very curious to ask another holy man, like, why was it that he was using a Netilat Yadayim cup with 3 handles? It just seemed weird. Most people have 2, so they thought maybe some spiritual reason, some maybe minhag from a family dynasty, back in the days of. So it was actually the tzaddik Reb Hillel, and so this is what he answered. That what is washing hands? When you wash your hands, it's really representing the water represents hi. I just upstairs. Upstairs? Okay, thank you. No problem. So you're welcome to join for a class after. So he says that the water that is in the cup represents, in many, many places in the Torah is represented by water. And so when you're pouring the water, it's like the water coming from above, meaning Hashem's Torah, coming from above, and it's coming down to get rid of the impurity of the hands. Now, hands represents action. Hands represents the actions that comes from emotions. So what we're trying to do is draw down godly wisdom to purify and wash away our emotions that, God forbid, lead to negative actions, and get rid of those negative actions by getting rid of the negative emotions from the Holy Torah. So it says that that's really the kavanah that you're having when you're doing a Netilat Yadayim. Like, that's the idea. Like, I really want to have Hashem's Torah, purify me. So then he says that the reason why he has these 3 handles is because it represents the 3 steps that you need to take in order to grasp God's wisdom, your head, your moichin, your chokhmah, so that it will be able to flush away negative emotions, negative thoughts, negative actions that come from your thoughts. So he actually said the 3 things was hitbodedut, iyun, and hitakvut, which means hitbodedut is to be boded, to be alone. You need time of solitude, alone with your maker, alone with your mind, fixated, to get to the next step, which is iyun, which is profound contemplation. Because if you're, let's say, your mind is busy with a lot of different things, and you're listening to a lecture in the background, that's good. Better that than nothing. But like you're not going to really 100% focus because your child is asking you this, your husband is doing that. It's a lot of, you really have to like spend time by yourself in solitude and zone in to be able to then contemplate and meditate on what you are studying and use your mind in this way. And the next one is hitakvut, which is deliberateness. To deliberately then have the mind focused. To then be able to deliberately have your mind help you make the proper next action. So he actually, the Frierdiker Rebbe, this comes from Likutei Divurim, which is volume 1, page 298 and on, that because you have chokhmah, you have like this unbelievable godly sent gift of wisdom, and it comes to you like a flash. And this has to be invested in the intellect, and it has to be in the intellect invested in 3 stages. So it first comes to you as an idea, like a point. Then all of a sudden it starts to radiate light, and then it gives life. But in order to get there, you have to make these stages. Taking the time for solitude, taking the time to really have profound contemplation, and then to deliberately set your mind onto something. So it's like you have this point, and then you start like delving deeply into it. Then it starts to radiate light. Just like, you're outside the house and you open the door, and then you get to the light switch, and once you do the light switch, I could see. So that's what's happening in your mind with your wisdom. It's deeply there. It's going in. It's turning on the light, and all of a sudden it starts shining its light, and then like you feel life. It gives life. So, really, like, it's so important to get a handle on your mind, and you need to have solitude to get a handle of it, and like maximize its power within you. And really, what you have to do is be prepared to have self-effacement, because chokhmah comes from the word koach ma, to be within, reach a power of being a what. There was once a story of a philosopher, and he, I guess, was meeting up with a student who really wanted to study with him, and the student was sitting there giving all the story about like what he did up till now. He studied with this professor, he knows this, he went to there, and on and on. And while this man is going on and on about him, the philosopher is pouring tea into a cup. And he's allowing purposely for the tea to overflow the cup. And as the man is talking about his accomplishments of what he studied with this person, once studied that, he's like noticing that now the water's spilling over the saucer and now onto the table. And he's like, and he says, like, the cup is full. What are you doing? He goes, and so are you. Like, I don't think I could teach you. Like, you're so full of yourself. You're so, like, what you know, what you've done. Like, you really aren't ready to be a student of mine. Like, you need to really, like empty yourself out to be able to receive. So, because ultimately it is your intellect that your godly wisdom that you want to pour into your mind that you'll be able to be more of yourself by getting rid of yourself, the non-self, the Yetzirah, animal soul, negative aspects of the animal soul, self. So you really have to surrender yourself to this knowledge. And you really have to then take complete possession of the knowledge so that all of your faculties will sense it and be able to be subject to it and receive. So now, having this utter devotion of your faculties and your senses to grasp holy concepts, but even any concept, is really two-sided. One, that the faculties end up eclipsing the other faculties that are not positive. So just recently there was a buzz everywhere that there's going to be a special eclipse. You know, what happens when the eclipse happens? It blocks. So by putting this holy wisdom inward in this way, it's going to eclipse the other negative faculties of your more base animalistic character traits that's coming from the animal soul. And it'll help it become absent. And at the same time, the revelation and the senses that promote comprehension become revealed. So in order to really get the best out of your intellect, this is what has to take place. Really zoning in, really focusing your mind in a very deep way, and to really promote comprehension and to really understand this desired concept. And one of the preliminary steps is to make sure you stay away from indulgences also, and putting your mind to things that are ultimately not useful and will God forbid cause a block. You know what I'm saying? So and by the way, this is really a service that we need to do. Now, although this has such a lofty advantage, but we have to be careful because there are there is some things that we have to be careful about, because yes, solitude and zoning in ends up moving us away from the world, but its advantages outweigh the disadvantage, because we don't want to live in a cave and not be part of the world. That's not why we're coming into this world. What we're trying to do is get to a level where we'll have this effect on our midot, so that when we do go out into the world, we're doing it healthily, mentally stable, with the right energy level to then get involved in the world. So he gives some examples here of what we think about when we're in this state of solitude. We think about how great the heavens and the earth are, and the mountains and the rivers and the trees, and that we could really think about how manifold is Hashem's works, that we'll really be able to say with truth how great are your works. And so that we'll have like such positive emotions toward Hashem. So that when we're in this solitude state, that we'll be able to soar with such loftiest concepts and be connected to what's really worth our thinking about. And so that eventually he'll be so infused with this love, because learning, meditation, this solitude and davening is actually what will develop this love of Hashem more and more, and will develop joy and positive emotions. And then his entire self will be utterly devoted to the highest of things. And so that he'll be drawn to loftiness and holy things. His thoughts will be occupied about attaining greater goals in this direction, rather than occupied with the pleasures of the world, the mundane taivas and the temptations of the world would come less and less. So we'll be able to go into the world, engage in the world, but in a healthy way, and not get into the world in and be drawn to all these inane, vain endeavors, including indulging in the material. So, but we have to think about this, like, the divine intention of the soul is not to come down into the body to be in solitude. Even though this is a very lofty service, this is not the end-all goal. It's not the intention underlying the descent of the soul into the body. Because before this descent, it was in the storehouse of souls, and up there, the souls already experienced solitude. It had already seen the most beautiful sights of godliness, more than the godliness it's seeing in this world. Here he sees creatures with bodies. There he saw divinity straight on. So it wasn't like the soul was sent down on this earth from the treasure house above with the purpose that cannot be realized through living in solitude. That's not the reason. And we know our tzaddikim. Every great tzaddik had periods of time where they had solitude. But then, even like they didn't really want to come into revelation and share their light, but eventually it was time for them to go out there and share their light and their wisdom and to affect the world in a great way. And they are our examples. And definitely we learn from them that there is a place for solitude within the day, and it's going to really help bring to fruition our goal for the day by spending this time. And it says here that these two things, solitude and revelation, are the two distinct paths that we need to take in our service of Hashem. Each one has its virtue, and each one has its drawback. And revelation, meaning spending the time in your own Dalet Amos, in your own corners of your prayers and your learning, but then, like, getting involved in the world and making a difference by what you know. And, of course, never to be satisfied that you just have it. Like, you know, like that part of getting to this level of having it, as the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, it's not enough for you to just have peace. Because your desire so much so is to connect to God and bring pleasure to God. That's the ultimate reason that we're here. So that you're not sitting content that the other person is where he is. You also want the other person to be closer to God and to bring pleasure to God. And that brings you the ultimate pleasure that you're giving God pleasure. and not just sit on your own laurels and it's whatever you accomplished and you got to where you got to. Because the main goal is to refine the world. If you're just going to stay at that stage of like being just happy and content with your own revelation, then we're not realizing our potential of elevating and refining the world. So, so here we see that we have. Oh, thank you. So here we see that this is really a way to which we can to really actualize our unbelievable potential in our mind. That there's no way around it. That this is the direction we have to take to be able to get to that freedom in our own state of mind. And our holy tzaddikim did it, Avraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov. That's why they took the job of shepherdhood, because that was a time where they needed to have this connection in this way. So I wanted to share with you something that I sent someone, and I'm going to get it right now. Thank God I sent them the picture. And it says here that there's a direction one needs to take in order to be able to free the person up to get to this place of Ahava and Yirat Hashem. And let me explain. The Alter Rebbe actually says that we have an amazing inheritance from Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov to be able to love Hashem and have Yirat Hashem. Now, there's different ways one can get to this love of Hashem. One of the ways is just really focusing our attention, our mind, that by looking at the way the world is created, how great he is. Just like when you think about a king, and the king, you're in so much awe of. And how do you know there is a king? Or how do you know? Because you see the roads are being taken care of. You see that there's the highway. Everything is being taken care of, and you see wow, look at his domain. And so seeing the city being organized the way it's organized, it's the king, and then you feel awe of the king. So the same way, we need to spend time in solitude and look at the world around us and realize all these things are from Hashem, and he's behind all this and making it happen. And you can humble yourself and feel so amazed. Which hopefully after I say this, you'll share your little thing that you told me about when you were on the airplane. And so that helps you develop a level of Avat Hashem and Yirat Hashem by contemplating God's greatness within the world. And it's called Ahavat Olam. It's called the love of the world, because through the world you can love Hashem and be connected to Hashem, because you see how great he is within the world. Then there's a level of attaining a love of Hashem because you realize he is your physical life. Like a person who, let's say, is a slave, and like everything comes to him, his food, everything comes from his master. So it's like, oh wow, my life is in your hands, and like, you're feeding me, you're taking it. What do I do? So there's a level of connecting to Hashem because He's your life. And people who are sickly usually tend to then really desire their life more, and then feel more connected to Hashem, and like, connect, and please, I need you, Hashem. Like, please give me my life back. I need you. And like, you feel it, and you sense your connection through the loss of your health, or the loss of feeling, really yourself. So, but that's like a lower level connection, because it's like, you need Him. There's a level that it's like you're not even part of the picture. Like, it's just, Hashem is your Father. And your Father you love more than yourself. Like in a healthy relationship, you would do anything. You give your life over for your parents, right? So, like, it's not about you. It's about how much you're in awe of your connection to Hashem, that you so much want to give your life over to Hashem. And that is a level of love that is a very high level. Now, the Alter Rebbe says that when we contemplate, like, that we have been bequeathed by Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov an ability to love and fear Hashem, it captures all types of love. That all we have to do is recall that we have it. It's like a quicker way to access all these kinds of different qualities of love within a one-step program. Yes, and that one step is recalling that you have this gift of love and Yirat Hashem as an inheritance from Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And then when this happens, and you have such contemplation and such, you spend the time in solitude, you really think this through, eventually this love will come to fore. Remember what we talked about, the water flushing out the negative emotions, flushing out the negativity, so now positive emotions of love and Yirat Hashem is now coming out. It's starting to gush out. It's there. It's buried. It's an inheritance, right? So just even recalling it is like a quick way to access this power. And then what will happen? The soul, as a matter of course, will divest itself of the garments that it had previously worn. What is the garments of the soul? Thoughts, speech, and action. Again, water coming down, flushing the actions, the emotions, the thoughts of our intellect. It's gonna, on its own, automatically divest itself, like water just swishing away the dirt on my hand. It's like a byproduct of me doing that. And then what will happen? The individual will cease loving the things that it previously loved. Meaning, all his love now will not be toward material things, not toward lustful in name, like that. Like, when you have like food from a garbage, and you have like food fit for a king, right? So which are you going to choose? Like this garbage food? Like that was in the dirt with the excrement or of a diaper, and or like here's the palace entry and having the divine pleasure of what's really a beautiful meal, as it were. So it will not invest itself in anything of pleasure or enjoyment, whether physical or spiritual. It will not desire anything whatsoever in the world other than God alone, the source of the vitality of all the pleasures of the world. So, like, for instance, in Kuntres Umayana, it actually was explaining the reason why a person yearns for that physical thing is because it's really wants the source of its holiness of it, but it's like God is the source. So, like, are you going to get the second-hand stuff, or are you going to get the first-hand stuff? The second-hand stuff is what's in the material things. The real stuff is getting it directly from God, meaning from our prayers, from our learning, from investing ourselves in the physical, but in a holy way. We'll get first-hand stuff. But if it's just for the pleasure, it's like we're not getting the source of it. So, because really everything is nullified on account to Hashem, and they're counted as nothing at all compared to Hashem. So there's not even a comparison or similarity between them, God forbid. Because all worldly pleasures, between all the worldly pleasures and God, God is the source of all the vitality of all these pleasures. So, a second. So then it continues that by just having this contemplation, that we have this inheritance from Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, by matter of course, the person will start to divest itself in all of the negative garments, not just his taivas and his pleasures of like physical things, but like, okay, so my husband didn't pay attention to me, big deal. Okay, so like, you know, it didn't happen the way I wanted, whatever. It's like, that's not important. What's important is my connection to Hashem, me being a lamplighter, me being an example, me going out there and doing whatever little I can do to bring God pleasure. So, and then it says, he brings a pasuk, Dr. Rebbe, and it's written, whom have I in heaven to love other than God? The verse goes on to say, and there is nothing upon the earth that I desire with you. And it'll come to from a real place. It's like you might have to fake it till you make it for a while, and you just have to like remind yourself, I have this love as an inheritance. You have to keep like day after day, you know, doing whatever you have to do. And I recall I read the memoirs of the Bresler Rebbe, and I was like forever amazed how challenging it was for him, the great-grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. Like, and he said he kept doing it and kept forcing it and kept like davening, and it wasn't happening for a minute, and he would fall 7 times within 1 hour and have to fight again. And I'm like, whoa. Like, and for years, he says, don't give up. You have to just keep plugging away, and even if you don't see the results right away. Like, and if he had this struggle, like, you know, how much for us, you know, we just have to keep trying. But eventually, there will be a breakthrough. And when we can really be honest with ourselves, because when we do have, and we see that in our life, that we have such like a draw toward physical pleasure, in one respect, that's the person that it's going to be easier for them to access this love of Hashem. Yes, they have such a passion for the godliness in the material things. That just shows how much passion that they really have, that once it's channeled, and he says here, But whoever's nature is cold and removed from any feelings of love, with whether God or otherwise, it's not going to be so easy because he won't be able to transfer this love. So it'll be a little more, much more actually difficult than another person to awaken this feeling of love for God. Nevertheless, like even if he can arouse it within himself, like by the above mentioned contemplation, that I have an inheritance from Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. It's there. Like I just gotta, you know.
Well, it's a blessing if you have a passion.
Yes. Whatever passion. If it's a fiery passion and you're angry type, if you love food, if you love whatever, then that just shows how high you are, and it'll be easy. Not easy, but it'll be easier, way easier, for you to reach the goal of having a fiery passion toward Hashem. Because
I heard that even like the person, let's say that is the greatest sinner, to reach the greatest heights. So it's the people that are that intention,
right.
That they could either stoop down to the lowest level,
exactly.
or else they could rise to the highest.
Right, that's how come when I see different clients of mine, I'm like, you are a special holy soul. You don't realize. And most of them think they're losers and how come I have this problem and whatever. But once they start to do this journey, they get to such heights, and they get to a place of just like unbelievable revelations, and it's really as they say, yerida l'tzorach aliyah, that being stuck in that deep down state is what's going to help them reach such higher heights. And it's really a gift that they went through that down state. So I wanted you to share something you shared with me regarding in the airport. That was so beautiful.
I was traveling on a plane, and I looked down, and I could see the cities, and the houses looked like little monopoly houses. And I started visualizing how people then are just like specks. And how really when you go higher and higher, smaller and smaller. And then when you go higher and higher up to Hashem, then really like his whole universe is his. And each of us like a little speck. And then it brought to my mind this meditation I had learned in one of the Chabad publications, that Hashem has created this vast universe, and he constantly is recreating it. And we, compared to this vast universe, we're really like specks. And how Hashem, when we daven, when we meditate, when we learn Torah, how he sets aside everything else, so to speak, and he helps, embraces us, like you're saying. He's listening to our prayers. He's receiving our prayers. He's learning Torah with us. He's guiding us through our day. And I felt such awe that I'm just a little speck among this whole universe. It's like on the plane, I could see more of the universe than I usually do. So I was really overcome with this awe.
And that comes from contemplation, like really thinking things through. It's like amazing. Baruch Hashem. So what we're going to start in the next couple of weeks is we're going to go more in depth with this book called Body, Mind, and Soul, because it is the time to work on our Chokhmah, Bina, and Das, and our other 7 emotional faculties. And we're going to go in depth with it. And the beginning point is, as we started this class, to really spend the time to gain an upper hand and grasp your intellect. And I highly suggest that every day when you do the Negel Wasser, whether you're washing for bread, whether it's by your bed in Modani, or what have you, to really pay attention to when the water's coming from above and falling into your hand, like to have this meditation that I need my wisdom attached to Hashem's wisdom and His Torah, so that it will begin to flush away my negative attributes. I need to really
my wisdom
to attach itself to Hashem's wisdom, so that this wisdom of mine, like I'm going to grasp it, I'm going to acquire and put my mind with it, like make it my domain, as it were, and grasp it. And then, look at the handles and remember the three handles: solitude and deep contemplation and deliberateness, and really deliberately think these things, that this revelation of this light from God's wisdom will pour forth on you. And the flash will not just stay a flash. It'll start to become a light. And this light from the wisdom will be giving you life by really flushing away the negative energies of your animal soul's negative attributes, the negative garments of thought, speech, and action. So, no problem, sorry.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Thank you. With Miriam's permission, I'd like to dedicate this class in memory of Shmuel ben Binyamin, who this Motzi Shabbos had a tragic accident which befell him, and it led to his demise. And the poor man was really never married or had family or siblings, and he should only reach the great heights of Hashem and be under Hashem's loving wings. And I pray that, he should be remembered for good, and that his influence in the Shemayim should be even greater than his love and great influence here on earth. Amen.
Everyone who needs a refuah shlema, we should have a kavanah. Wow. Hashem. So we have these 10 sefirot, and these 10 sefirot are divided into two major camps. The first three are Chochmah, Bina, and Das, and the other 7 we'll go into in another class, but the first 3 is the 3 faculties of our soul, that is our intellectual faculties. Generally, the 10 sefirot refer to the 10 manifestations of Hashem. It's the 10 powers of our soul, and it's really the 10 structural forces within all reality, within all the worlds, the higher worlds, within our soul, whether it's spiritual or physical. And each sefira channeled down an energy, giving a creative force to everything. And even in our own personal life, it's very manifest in us. And these are the basic formation, these 10 spheres are the formation of our intellect and our emotional properties of our soul. So, so we know that Chochmah is wisdom, Bina is understanding, and Das is knowledge. So, these 3 are the intellectual property of the soul, and Chochmah actually really refers to our mind's intuitive ability to uncover and perceive new insights. And now, depending on the degree to which we possess an inner selflessness, like remember we gave a story of a philosopher with a student, and he was so full of himself, so there was no space to receive from the philosopher. So the more we humble ourselves before God and work on like being that speck, like who am I? I'm a speck, my limited intellect and understand the ways of Hashem, forget it. And so the more you really pour out of yourself so that you'll have space for godliness. And this selflessness creates a concave vessel almost like a vacuum that ends up drawing the spiritual and light and life force of Hashem's wisdom into you. So Bina then is the second intellectual property of the soul. And sorry. Thank God this gets recorded and we can also review this. Yeah. No, it's fine. I want everyone to understand it. So the Bina part of our wisdom is the part that helps us understand. Taking this flash of insight, Hashem's Torah, and being able to have the ability to analyze and for the mind to process and make a structure of these new insights and compare and contrast and so that it will be fully understood. Because if you just read something, you're not activating your Bina. It's just peripheral. It's just like makif. It's not something that's like you're investing within your head the time to really understand it and make use of it. So, and actually, this actually brings joy. Like when, even when you, I remember times when I got an algebra problem. It was joyful that I figured it out, or it's activating the wisdom brings about joy. How much more so with godly wisdom? And that's why it says a pasuk, Em habanim mecha. The mother of sons is happy. But there's something more deep to this sentence. The mother of someone who has bina. Banim is bina. When you use your mind in this way, that leads you to joy. Torah brings joy to your life. So really, the more we use our bina, the more we understand fully, what a merit we have. Us, mortal, finite humans, given the opportunity to serve the one above. It's oh my gosh, you'll have more happiness in doing your service to Hashem. And this joy is the inner experience of understanding. This is the joy that fuels the soul's longing to return to Hashem and become one with Hashem. It comes from using our bina. And this is the power of healing our mind, body, and soul. Right, so we're going to do Das, and then we'll go into further detail next week. So the third intellectual property is Das. And again, C3, Chachma, Bin, and Das. So every time I look at a Negovastra and I think of the story of the three handles, I also think of this need of mine to use all three intellectual faculties. So Das has the ability to unite two parts of our intellectual soul into one. Das helps us put Chokhmah and Bina together. And then there's going to be an inner psychological experience of having our Chokhmah and Bina together, joined as one. It's like you can know about something, and then you can know it so much, it's in your heart, and that you now are living what you know. That is Das. To be so united with what you know that there's no question. You live it, and and that's the byproduct. And then when you have stable, strong Chokhmah, Bin, and Das, and you're developing these intellectual qualities, then you give birth to all the other positive emotions, which we'll do next week. Bezrat Hashem. Yes, no problem. Yes. Das is when you combine the flash of Hashem's intellect that He gives you, and you're using the inner recess of your mind to really understand what you're learning. Then comes the level of being able to live what you know. because you're so united with the information. It's so a part of you. It's so deeply ingrained now in your heart. And you have such a passion for what you know, then it's easier and easier for you to live what you know. And then eventually that gives birth to all the positive, healthy emotions. So as the Frierdiker Rebbe says, you don't fight the darkness with a stick. You open a light, and the darkness disappears. So you open the light of your intellectual soul powers, and it will chase away it's a byproduct, the negative emotions. So that you don't have to work so hard. It just on its own begins to happen. So I want to stop here so we'll have time to meditate and dance, and we'll just put a sphera.
Open up the light of the self-power, and what happens?
And then the birth of these healthy emotions takes place. And you reminding me of what I learned with Rebbetzin Ginsburg once, and I actually really want to cover this now, because just like children you have to guide them and wait for them to develop, our intellectual powers are considered the parents that are going to guide these offspring of ours until they become mature. Like parents, there could be go with the flow, non-informed parents that just do whatever they feel and raise kids, whatever. They don't really look into it. They don't study about what's the best way. What does the Torah say? And whatever they could raise, maybe luckily, whatever kind of children. But the more well-informed parent will then develop more mature. The chances are, the odds are, with better parenting, then you're going to have better raised children. So the same thing with our own emotions. When we get our parents, our Chokhmah Bin and Das, to be more, developed, and then we will give birth to the healthy offspring. B'ezrat Hashem. So I'll take a moment and we'll contemplate. Once again, that this is the time period to really work on our sfirot during the 49 days from Pesach to Shavuot. Depending on what effort we put on these 49 days will depend what everlasting changes we will receive during Shavuot. For those of you who came late. And I want us to visualize ourselves literally stepping toward Har Sinai. This is going to be our meditation, our Hizbonenus. I'm going to put a nigun on.
Quick special question.
Yeah.
6:29 at evening is before sunset. So let's say if a person passed away at that time, it would be the day, that day, not the next day.
Yeah, I think so. But I don't know. You have to check. I'm not a rabbi. Yeah, definitely. Even though this has words in the background, but since it's Sirah, wait, that was the wrong one. I love that one. So we'll wait. Although I've asked rabbis and they said it's okay, but it's 1 second. I'm doing meditation and stuff. Where did it go? Oh, here. So since we learned about thinking about Hashem's greatness, and we covered a lot today. Oh my gosh, Baruch Hashem. So I hopefully bless you that you'll have the time to review it. It gets recorded. But the main message is that now's the time. We have an auspicious time to grab the energy and blessings God gave us during Pesach, to work with it and make us, okay. So then we just I want us to close our eyes and.
You want to just give a blessing to the new month. It's a new month.
Oh,
I
it's
yeah. But bless everybody with a spiritual, physical, emotional,
Amen.
feeling,
Amen.
in every sense of the word, and total well-being.
Wow, maybe
blessing.
That's why now I'll tell you after. Wow, thank you. Bezrat Hashem, we should all be blessed with all the refuah. So you can close your eyes and just take a deep breath. And with every breath you take, as I heard a beautiful mashal of taking deep breaths, when you inhale, you can consciously feel all that you learned come within you. And then as you breathe out, you can have this conscious awareness that the voices that you're going to use throughout the day is going to be infused with that learning that you breathed into you. So that when you pray, you're going to pray with a gust, with life, with and when you speak, it will be with kindness, and it's just the breath coming out is going to be a byproduct of what you have breathed into you through your learning. So, and that's our goal, to reach Matan Torah so that we'll have this enormous transformation. So just see yourself walking in solitude, getting ready to reach that ultimate experience of receiving the Torah again in Har Sinai, and that the solitude is really part and parcel of the service you need to do to reach your goal and your destination. And you just, every step you take, you just think clearly that what in your life has been preventing you from engaging in that endeavor, and how can you upgrade it, even if you have already been very dedicated to having that solid and that time of deep contemplation and deliberateness of really accessing the powers of your mind. And, see yourself as you're walking along. There's one side is full of light and full of holy books and sidurim, and another path is a dark path. It's leading to nowhere, and then everything that represents everything in the world that can distract you from really engaging in this service. So you realize that this is the path you want to take, because above this path is Har Sinai. Whereas the other path leads to a dead end and dryness and no greenery. It's all dark. So you definitely go the route, and you see yourself taking this route, and you stop at this location, and you take the time, and you really try to do these three things. You're alone. You're spending the time in solitude. You're zoning in. You're trying to understand. You're trying to delve deeply and contemplate. Really be close to Hashem with your mind and try to understand it, and be really deliberate in using your soul faculties of Chokhmah, Bina, and Das. And you just all of a sudden see an amazing revelation. You all of a sudden see a vision of yourself, having the experience of Matan Torah, and having this revelation and giving birth to healthy mindset, healthy emotions that are being born from your healthy mindset. And your desires are now healthy, godly. Not so much of a struggle anymore. It's just so easy for you in this vision to act in the most holy, appropriate way.
when dealing with family, with dealing with the world, and every aspect, even in your own spiritual world, in your own spiritual endeavors. It's healthy, it's balanced, it's a beautiful sight and a peaceful sight. Everything that you know is possible for you. And take a moment and really thank Hashem, that you've been privy to this information, that it should be ignited within you a spark of hope and trust in Hashem, that He gave us everything we need to be able to reach our holy destination of capturing ourself and redeeming our truest self. And when you're ready, you open your eyes and make a commitment. This is really important. And it's going to really bring you there. All right. Okay, so I'm going to bless you for a beautiful week. And remember, keep shining by smiling. We're getting there. Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.